Okay. I bet you're asking yourself, this guy looks like an idiot. Well, that's not really a question. That's more of an observation, but I'm tired. That's why I'm not looking so hot, because I've been sick for the last few days. But, you're like, why does he look so fucking old? Well, because I've taken anabolic steroids for 4 years, and then you're thinking, wow, you must have taken a lot. Yeah, frankly, how many anabolic steroids have I taken? This fucking thing, it's gonna ruin my whole intro, which is gonna be stupid anyways. But yeah, how many anabolic steroids have I taken? Okay, motherfucker, all of them. All right, hopefully that wasn't too corny. Let's put this back on. Here's my ambience. Perfect. So, this is really low. I don't want to have to talk too loud. I still have my cold. My eyes are kind of sensitive right now because I don't know why. I just had those sunglasses on to do that dumb intro. My lips are. See, one thing, if you're gonna take tretinoin, I guess I gotta add that to this list because I made a list of all the all the biggest dosages I've done of all these drugs that I've used. If you're gonna use tretinoin, even though you don't put it on your lips, it'll still dry your lips, and so you got to keep on putting that on daily. And then I also use, what kind of soap is that? That's tea tree oil soap, and that dries out your skin because I'm still dealing with acne from steroid usage, and but that helps with it. And then also going on a TRT dosage helped a lot with getting rid of it. And I don't plan on doing any more blasts because one thing that I always noticed is that each blast requires, although I didn't have one for the first 3, but in early 2022, I got sick. I didn't sleep for 5 days, and ever since then, I get sick every 2 to 3 months. I mentioned that in my last video, and every time I do a cycle, I have to, because I've just been like, my cruise doesn't really last all that long, frankly, or at least it hasn't. And then so I've been doing blasts, and especially with Trenbolone, it seems like every time I use Trenbolone, I have to detox, and that means I'm going to get a really bad cold. And well, it's the main issue is the fever. And anyways, my body's got to purge all that shit out of my system. Trenbolone is not good for you. It sends your C-reactive protein, which is a marker of inflammation, through the roof. And so the thing is that it's like the most overrated drug ever. But I'm going to tell you, and I've got some, there's other guys on YouTube they've used, I don't know. I guess everybody kind of goes high on it just because it's, people go high. Everybody, I don't know. It seems like everybody's done 700 milligrams of Tren per week. But me, that's some cookie cutter shit. So I did, I'll go through my list here, but I've done 1,400 milligrams of Tren acetate in 1 week. The week previous to that was 1,000. I ran out my dosage quickly. It went 700 1 week, 1,000 the next week, 1,400 that last week. And I filled up every single, I was able to, I don't think I could possibly put in another like milliliter of glycogen into my muscles. I was so freaking full. And and it does work for that, but you can probably get to that same level if you just take it a little more slowly with a lower dosage. Not a trend, just a test. And this is my opinion, and I'm not a doctor. And so, okay, so the biggest dosages I've done, okay, I made a whole list, and I had to like look up all the drugs because I've used, I couldn't think of them all off the top of my head, so I had to look them up on a website, and then just be like, oh, okay, I use that, and then I have to think back to when I use these things. So back in 2022, I did 5 grams of tests per week I would do like 5 grams of tests for 2 weeks, and then I would just feel, I remember I got like, that just made me sick. And then I'd bring it down to, the most I could handle is about 3 grams. I did 4 grams this last cycle. It was like 4 grams for like 6 weeks or 7 weeks. And then It probably would have been okay, but I was just packing in so much food. I was overeating constantly, and I could have taken it a little slower. Or what you want to do is, I was also packing lots of sugar, and that makes you feel terrible. And so, 4 grams for 7 weeks is that's probably my longest sustained blast at a high that high of a dosage. Then I added in 350 milligrams of tren per week on top of tren acetate, because that's the one you want to use, in my opinion, because it just gets in and out of your system really fast. It's also it's a higher concentration, because 1 cc of tren acetate is about 80. Assuming it's dosed correctly, but I got a high quality source. I didn't used to. It's about 88 milligrams of tren per 1 cc of trenbolone acetate, and per 100 milliliters of trenbolone acetate, you get 88 milligrams of tren. But and then the other one is trenbolone enanthate. You get about, so that's 88%. The other one, tren E, is like 70% tren. Okay. But the problem with that one is if you don't know, if your body can't handle it, or because that's another thing is I think only beginners use tren E, because they think that they don't realize that they can't handle it. I've done that. And then so you take it, and then eventually your sleep gets ruined, and then it takes like 2 weeks to get into your system, or at least to get down to a level where it's not going to be bothering your sleep, and that's not fun. You're going to have to detox either way, so you might as well get better sleep sooner. Anyways, in my opinion, a good dosage for tren is like 50 milligrams every other day, but it'd probably be better to have like lower peaks if you're going to do 25 milligrams per day, so a quarter cc. And so anyways, 5 grams test per week, that's the most I've done. 750 milligrams of sustanon per week for 2 weeks. And sustanon is what originally made me break out with acne. And sustanon sucks. Sustanon has like probably the lowest concentration of test per milliliter. Like proportionally. Tremble, or I think testosterone acetate, testosterone suspension has the most per milliliter, but people don't use that. That's just like a pre-workout thing. If you're going to use that for a cycle, have fun with that, because those injections, well, if you have high quality stuff, it doesn't, it actually will probably give you less swelling, but it's still not fun to shoot because you feel it going in. Well, frankly, it is still less uncomfortable than most of the tren that I've shot. And then you also won't get a cough, because the tren cough sucks. You just hack up a lung for 3 minutes, and then you like superheat. It's kind of like I remember, if you've ever had like an injection and you feel like fainting and you're like totally drenched in sweat. Well, it's like that level of sweat plus coughing, but you're not gonna faint. Hopefully. And so, 750 of sustanon, and I think I just threw out sustanon after that. I had 2 bottles, because Jimmy the Bull used sustanon, so I'm like, that just sounds cool. Sustanon is like, it's made by Organon, and so it's combining like sustained testosterone, because there's really long esters in it. There's propionate, there's phenylpropionate, then there's 2 really long esters. And the 2 really long esters are what makes up most of the dosage. And so it's like sustained by Organon. I assume that's how they came up with that. And I don't know if people still prescribe that for TRT. I don't think they do. But anyways. Then the next thing I did, 12 grams of testosterone suspension in one go. And so 12 cc's, 3 here, 3 here, 3 in this lat, and 3 in that lat. And that's a really good pre-workout. I did 10, but even better, an even better pre-workout, it was 10 grams of test suspension plus 360 milligrams of D-ball. And when I would do these big dosages, I would take 3 grams of vitamin C with it and 3 grams of NAC to try and mitigate some of that liver stress. And I felt fine both times I did that. Stomach was a little messed up from the D-ball, Not as bad as when I took Anadrol though. And so the most D-ball I've taken, just D-ball in one go, is 500 milligrams. And that was when I did earlier this year, back in January, I did 661 for 10 reps. Yeah, that's when I did that. And it worked pretty good, 661 for 10 on my deadlift bar. And I've got the, I remember I tore a callus on that one. But that's because when you use straps, you're not necessarily putting your hand in the right spot. I got to trim these fingernails. One of the things you're going to notice is that if you grow, or if you're taking tests, your fingernails grow really fast. Your facial hair grows faster too. Because I assume fingernails are made of collagen, and hair probably is to some extent, maybe. I don't know, maybe. But testosterone improves collagen synthesis. Nandrolone or decadurabolin, NPP, Anavar, oxandrolone, and then Winstrol does too. But apparently Winstrol changes the ratios between the different collagen types in the tissues than what it should be, and so it will it'll skew them in a way that's actually detrimental to your joints. And so Winstrol is not a good thing for strength athletes, because you don't want to be, joint pain and joint damage is no good under heavy load. And so even bodybuilders will use it for a short time because it thins the skin. And so you'll appear more jacked. You'll be more vascular. All right. And so the most DECA I've used in 1 week is for I don't know, like a month or two, 1,050 milligrams. And so that's 3.5 cc's of DECA, because DECA is generally dosed at 300 milligrams per milliliter. That's when my acne got really bad. And I also got cysts. And I remember I had a cyst here, and I had like a thing here. And apparently cysts really like high estrogen environments. And if you have an iodine deficiency, which pretty much everyone does, although I'm taking a shitload of iodine now, and I have been for months. And so one thing you want to look into is Lugol's iodine, because unless you're eating like seaweed or a seafood diet, which isn't that good anymore because most seafood is contaminated with mercury, you're probably deficient in iodine. So the Japanese are probably the only people on the earth, other than people in, like, I don't know, some like fishing villages, they're probably the only people on the earth that aren't iodine deficient. And their RDA for iodine is like extremely low. It's basically just enough so that I don't know, I don't even know what the problem is. Lots of the RDAs are like just to get you to a level where you're not going to get some sort of disease, but it's not the optimal level for most of them. And so apparently the average Japanese person gets like 13 milligrams of iodine in their diet per day. I take 37.5 milligrams per day. I'm not worried about oversaturation. And anyways, I think the RDA is like 300 micrograms. So I'm taking over 100 times the RDA. And then they iodize salt for that reason. But then apparently there's some contaminants in salt that you really don't want, like glass. And then, there's yellow prussiate of soda, the anti-caking agent. They put that in salt too, in some salts. And so that has cyanide in it. So yeah. Apparently what you want to get is kosher salt. I use Himalayan pink salt. I'm probably gonna get kosher salt after I run out of this Himalayan pink salt. All right, so after that I used 1,400 milligrams of Trenbolone acetate in 1 week. 100 milligrams of Anavar in one go. That's the most Anavar I've taken. That Anavar was no good though, so that shouldn't even count. 30 milligrams of MK677 every other day for one cycle, and then I'd also take 10 IUs of growth hormone before bed. The next morning I would take 30 milligrams of MK677, and I did that for about 40 days. That was in the same cycle that I ended with 10 grams of testosterone suspension and 360 milligrams of D-ball for a pre-workout androgen dosage. And I did an 800 deadlift. Okay, 10 milligrams of YK11 per day. I wanted to use YK11 because apparently it's a myostatin inhibitor. And I don't know if 10 milligrams did much. Maybe you got to take more than that, but it's expensive. Because there are clinical trials where it showed it lowers myostatin. It was just like a hormone or something, or some sort of molecule that reduces how much muscle you can put on. And so people who have myostatin deficiencies are extremely jacked. The Belgian blue bull apparently has a myostatin deficiency. That's why it's if you can just look that up. It's absurdly muscular. But unfortunately, I didn't become a Belgian blue. 600 milligrams of equipoise per week. That was a long time. That was like back in 2021. No, maybe that was 2022. I remember I just bought that. I wanted to try it. And it's 300 milligrams per milliliter. So I was taking 2 milliliters per week, I'm pretty sure. And that drug it takes so long to build up in your system. And it's not even worth using considering how kidney toxic it is. And it's not as... So testosterone is more androgenic, so you'll get more strength gains out of it. It doesn't totally pwn your fucking kidneys like equipoise. And it also builds up in your system faster, even if you're using a long ester. Because equipoise is what's it called? Boldenone undecanate. I don't think there's no shorter ester ones available. Equipoise is for horses. That's what Leo said, and he's right. I did 350 milligrams of primobolan per week for 6 weeks, and I would do like half cc here, and I would just alternate, half cc here, every single day. It's 100 milligrams per milliliter, and so 3.5 cc's a week. Okay, 20 milligrams of Anabar per week for about 2 months. And then I did, after that, like right after I ran out of my Anavar, I started using 100 milligrams of Anadrol, 50 milligrams of Anadrol per day for about 45 days. Then my stomach got wrecked, and I had to take a break from using the orals. 60 D-ball per week. 60 D-ball per day for 30 days. The half-life on D-ball is like 5 or 6 hours, and so I would take 20 milligrams 3 times a day. And once I ran out of that, then I started using Anadrol. I did 100 milligrams of Anadrol per day for about 30 days, and then I picked up D-ball again. This is my first cycle. And then I was taking 1 gram of test on top of that. Halotest. I've done 110 milligrams of Halotest in one go. Maybe it was 105 milligrams. I think it was 110. Anyways, that worked pretty good. I think when I did that, I did 660 for 8 reps. Which is not too bad. That was on my my silver bar, my 28 millimeter bar. 750 micrograms of methyltranolone. That made me feel like total shit. But it worked. Okay, 200 milligrams of Anadrol plus 3 cc's of test suspension in one go, and I did that 2 times. I did 749 deadlift with my switch grip, and then the second time I did a 335 overhead press. And then Cardarine, I've used that. I can't remember what the dosage was. I think it was 20 milligrams. I did it for 4 or 5 days, and it gave me insomnia because it's a stimulant. 20 grams of, we're going to go into like weaker stuff. 20 grams of creatine monohydrate per day for a few weeks. That's like, you can take up to that much. There's people take creatine also as a sort of nootropic apparently. But I was taking it just to fill out as much as possible. It's one of the most important supplements to take, and thankfully it's still decently cheap. 20 milligrams of Cialis per day. That's what I'm taking now. Cialis upregulates your androgen receptors, and lowers your blood pressure, but also you get better erections. 300 milligrams of Masteron per week. That didn't really do anything. It didn't even make me lose hair any faster. 2 milliliters of cerebrolysin twice a week for 10 weeks. And I would take that on my deadlift days. Or my RDL day. And then my normal deadlift day. because it's an anxiolytic. It improves REM sleep, and it increases IGF-1. So it's really good for recovery, but it's kind of hard to get now, or it just takes a long time to come in, and it's expensive. And what else? 10 IU. Oh yeah, I already talked about that. 25 milligrams of raloxifene daily for 5 weeks, and that was to shrink my gynecomastia, and that worked. That's actually a lower dosage of raloxifene. I had to come off testosterone for 5 weeks to correct my acne, because I developed, my acne was terrible, but I also had gynecomastia really bad, especially on my left nipple, and or underneath it, and that did the trick. And I think I still have some left over, but my gynecomastia now has shrunk to a degree that it doesn't really bother me. And they'll just become inflamed once in a while, but I'm pretty sure my estrogen now is at a low enough level that, because I'm only taking 250 milligrams of testosterone per week, it's at a low enough level where it doesn't seem to be bothering it. Because when they first flared up, when I was taking 1 gram of test for my first cycle, I remember my nipples were on fire, and I drove home when I was, I went home quick, and I popped 2 milligrams of Arimidex, and it went away. I've taken 10 milligrams to 160 milligrams of Accutane per day. And 160 milligrams per day was only for a week or two. But I had a sustained dosage of 80 milligrams per day for a month or two. Yeah. 2 milligrams of Arimidex daily. This last cycle, when I was taking 4 grams of test, that's what I was doing. And I've done up to 150 milligrams of melatonin per night, which is kind of overkill, but it still is a good antioxidant. Probably 10 to 20 milligrams for me is probably the right amount to take. Well, now. And I've also used Benadryl as a sleep aid, but I don't like to use that because that apparently like ruins your memory. And so anyways, that's some of the stuff that I've used. And, well, there's also nicotine. And so, but that's nothing compared to these other things. I think the most I've taken is 20 milligrams in one day. All right, so there we go. And I still have all my needles. So I'll have to count those one day. Yeah, right. I think in 4 years I've had over 1,000. I've definitely had over 1,000 injections. And so I've got a decent amount of scar tissue built up. Especially in these shoulders, and then especially in this shoulder, because I remember for a while during my first cycle, we were just shooting deltoids. This shoulder, my left shoulder, would always get irritated. So I don't know how many shots in a row in this right shoulder, and thankfully it didn't get fucked up. But I had a bad shot in this shoulder, and it swelled up, and it went down to my arm here, and it took like 2 weeks for like this edema or whatever to go away.